cappuccino, flat white, espresso macchiato, and up to 16 different recipes. That's what you can prepare with the DeLonghi Rivelia super automatic coffee machine, all at the press of a button and with the incredible aroma of freshly ground coffee beans. If you want to see how each one is made, learn about its main features, and discover tips to personalize them to your taste, don't miss this video. The DeLonghi Rivelia is one of the coffee machines that can prepare the largest number of recipes. Specifically, it's capable of making all the recipes you'll see on screen. The difference between each recipe lies in the amount of coffee, milk, and milk foam used in each preparation. Additionally, you can make several adjustments to each one to suit your preferences. Another important feature that sets the Rivelia apart from other coffee machines is its LatteCrema System, which lets you control the amount of foam in each drink, a key detail for preparing the recipes we're about to explore. Let's start with coffee and milk-based recipes, beginning with a classic, the cappuccino. This drink is made with a shot of espresso and roughly double that amount of milk and milk foam. Among milk-based drinks, it's one of the most balanced in terms of coffee and milk ratio, since other drinks, as we'll see later, have a much higher proportion of milk. Another feature that distinguishes the cappuccino is the generous layer of foam, as you can see in this example. Also, as you may have noticed, for this recipe the coffee machine pours the milk first and then the coffee. This creates slightly separated layers and gives the drink its distinctive taste. The next recipe is the cappuccino mix. As you can see, it's very similar in terms of coffee, milk, and foam proportions. But in this case, the cappuccino mix is prepared by pouring the coffee first and then the milk. This makes the coffee and milk blend more thoroughly, giving it a different flavor profile. Moving on to drinks with a higher proportion of milk, we have the Latte Macchiato. In this case, the Rivelia uses much more milk than coffee, resulting in a beverage with a much milder coffee taste. As you'll see, it also includes a good amount of milk foam, although slightly less than in a cappuccino. In the same category, we also have the Caffelatte, quite similar to the Latte Macchiato but with a few differences. In this case, it includes even more milk and less foam than the Latte Macchiato, giving it a distinct character. If you're someone who prefers coffee drinks where the coffee flavor stands out more, then you'll love the flat white. This recipe uses twice as much coffee as the previous ones, with a slightly higher amount of milk and just a small amount of foam. As you can see by the color, coffee clearly dominates this recipe. On the other hand, there are drinks with much less milk or foam, like the Cortado, which also starts with an espresso base but uses a similar amount of milk and a minimal amount of foam. Also in this category is the Espresso Macchiato, typically an espresso with just a touch of foam on top, although in this version a small amount of milk is also added. To wrap up the milk-based drinks, it's worth noting that you can also prepare hot milk, with or without foam, to enjoy on its own or to combine with any beverage you like. Now let's look at the different black coffee recipes that the Rivelia can prepare. Let's start with how it makes an espresso. All you have to do is press the espresso button on the top panel, and as you'll see, the machine starts grinding the beans and preparing the drink. In this case, the machine uses between 8 and 10 grams of coffee beans. This depends on the strength setting you select in the customization menu. If you choose a stronger coffee, the machine will grind and use more beans. As you probably know, espresso is known for using a small amount of water to achieve a more intense flavor. This machine is pre-configured to use 40 milliliters of water, but you can adjust it to use more or less depending on your taste. As you can see, the coffee has a rich color and the classic crema layer that defines this type of beverage. Also in this category, there's Espresso Lungo, very similar to espresso but with a higher amount of water. You also have the option to make a double coffee or 2 espressos at once. The next recipe is what DeLonghi refers to as coffee in its models. As you'll see, in this case, the machine uses the same amount of coffee beans as for an espresso, but it adds much more water. By default, this recipe uses 180 milliliters of water, but it can be configured to serve between 100 and 240 milliliters. This type of coffee, being more diluted, has a much milder flavor than espresso. And here it is, our cup of coffee. As you can see, it still has great color and a decent crema layer, even though it's lighter. Now let's look at the recipe DeLonghi calls long. As you'll see, the preparation is similar to the previous one. The difference is that halfway through, as shown here, the machine performs a second grind. So, it uses double the coffee compared to the previous recipe, resulting in a more intense long coffee. This version is preset to use 160 milliliters of water, less than the previous drink, but it can also be adjusted between 115 and 250 milliliters. And here's the result. As you'll notice, it's a bit smaller than the last one, and the flavor is more intense because it uses a double grind. You might find these recipes similar to the typical Americano. They're quite alike, but the difference is that the Americano is prepared by first making an espresso and then adding hot water, which gives it a slightly different character from the others. Lastly, let's talk about hot water for infusions. To prepare this, you need to remove the LatteCrema System and insert the hot water spout that comes as an accessory with the DeLonghi Rivelia. And as you'll see, the machine starts dispensing hot water so you can easily make your favorite tea or infusion. The water temperature is quite high, so you won't have any trouble preparing a proper cup of tea or similar drink. Aside from all the recipes we've just seen, the DeLonghi Rivelia can also make iced coffee drinks. However, it's important to note that for cold milk-based drinks, you'll need an additional accessory, the LatteCrema Cool System, which is sold separately. And that's the full list of beverages this model can prepare.